I just learned that my everyday morning meal might not actually be super healthy for my body or the planet. Let me explain. I like to eat eggs almost every day, but too much egg consumption can lead to high cholesterol, and it also doesn't fit with the Planetary Health Diet. This diet was developed by an international team of scientists to improve our health while ensuring sustainable food production that doesn't damage the planet. So what can I do to fix the problem? Just stop eating eggs? No. I just have to reduce the amount of eggs I eat a week. So today we're going to take a closer look at this diet and see how eating more plant-forward meals can help save our planet. The EAT-Lancet Commission, which is made up of 37 leading scientists from around the world, wants to get everyone to eat more like this. This is what they call the Planetary Health Diet, PhD for short, which for the average adult is a 2,500 daily calorie intake that mostly consists of plant-based foods like whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and legumes. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but no, this doesn't mean you have to become a vegetarian or even a vegan. According to the diet, you can still eat meat, fish, and dairy, just in significantly smaller amounts than what you might be used to. On a weekly basis, we're talking about 1 burger, 2 fish servings, and 1 to 2 eggs max. Oh, and you've also had to significantly cut refined sugars. The reason the PhD exists is to pave the way for a sustainable food system that's not only healthy for humans, but also for the planet, meaning the food we eat is not contributing to CO2 emissions, pollution, and biodiversity loss. According to the Lancet Commission, implementing these kinds of changes could help ensure healthy, sustainable diets for as many as 10 billion people by 2050. Estimates suggest that there are approximately 2 billion people who are malnourished and a further 2 billion people who are overweight. But if we adopt better eating habits, then it's a win-win scenario. Healthy humans, healthy planet. But how does a mostly plant-based diet actually help the planet? Well, research has found that food production is responsible for up to 30% of total greenhouse gas emissions. That majority being animal products like dairy and your favorite meats. Plant-based diets also help us save water. Agriculture is responsible for about 70% of fresh water use. And again, your favorite meat and dairy products are the primary source of agriculture-related water consumption. We're talking huge amounts of water here. Producing just 1 pound of beef requires 1,800 gallons of water, whereas beans, which also serve as a source of protein, require approximately 10 times less water to produce. Then there's the issue with minimizing agricultural land use. Forests are being completely destroyed and vast lands saturated with cattle that emit climate warming methane. The EAT-Lancet report found that 40% of Earth's ice-free landmass is currently occupied by agriculture. And if we were to eat less meat, we'd require less cropland, which in turn would create less pollution. Of course, something this big doesn't come without any criticism. Some industry experts believe that the PhD is based on outdated research. Other critics claim that the diet proposes unrealistically small portions of animal-based protein, which would translate to deficiencies of vitamin B12, vitamin D, retinol, and calcium. The Commission has acknowledged some vitamins will need to be supplemented. Then there's the issue of money. The Commission has not calculated any of the economic or social costs of the PhD recommendations. Although it's not a perfect diet for everyone, the benefits seem to outweigh the costs. The Commission suggests that the PhD could prevent up to 11 million premature adult deaths annually. It also highlights how additional fiber from plant-based foods could reduce the prevalence of metabolic diseases around the world. And of course, it would help us meet the Paris Agreement goal of keeping the global average temperature increase this century to below 2 degrees Celsius. Future projections generated by scientists show that if we were to shift to a more plant-based diet, we would significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. One thing to mention though is that this diet is not for everyone. And the Commission acknowledges that, implying that the global population should not eat the same foods. The PhD is merely a set of nutritional guidelines that can better support human health and a sustainable planet. As I said before, implementing the Planetary Health Diet won't be easy, but it's not such a radical idea either. If you look at the Mediterranean, Okinawa, and other diets around the world, you'll see it's possible. Plus, we've seen major global changes like this happen before. In the mid-20th century, during the Green Revolution, which hugely increased grain supplies around the world. Again, this would require a lot of change, like North Americans would need to eat 84% less red meat and 6 times more beans and lentils to meet the PhD outline. Europeans would have to eat 77% less red meat, and 15 times more nuts and seeds. It would also require corporations to change the way they process and transport food, have stores reduce food waste, and change the way we do industrial agriculture. But above all, it would require consumers like us to change our eating habits. There are already a handful of initiatives to get people to think about where their food comes from and how they're eating it. Then there are companies that are creating alternatives to meat like Impossible or Beyond, and even companies that are creating alternatives to eggs that don't come from chickens. But what can you, as a consumer, do to implement a better diet that helps the planet? Well, start by thinking about what you're eating, where it comes from, and how much of it you're eating. Again, this diet is very dependent on your age, gender, activity levels, and overall health profile. But if you want to be more conscious, you can use it as a guideline and create your own plan-forward diet. You can go on the Eat Forum website to learn more about the guidelines and even collect new recipes. And if you don't know what to look for when you're at the store, you can download the Geeky Badges app. This app gives you information about how ethical or sustainable products really are, whether the packaging is recyclable or the ingredients were sourced responsibly. But the key takeaways here are: eat less meat and dairy, eat more plants, reduce your food waste and plastic consumption, try to source your groceries locally, or even grow them in your own backyard. But if you're ever in doubt and don't know where to start, just remember what your parents told you growing up. It's important to eat your fruits and veggies.